Hey there, it's Trisha, and I wanted to go over the trades for Thursday, June 25th. We had an awesome day. Um, Also, have been getting some emails. Yes, we do still have a couple openings in the education chat room, and the only criteria is that you have the ebook, that you've purchased the ebook. And the reason is so you know what the setups are, and you get all the indicators with the ebook. So this way, all your charts will be set up and so forth. And that will be the best way that you can take advantage of getting the most out of what we're doing in the chat room. So the first trade that we'll talk about, actually, we took off the 512 tick chart, and we wanted to take it off the 200. We were waiting for it to get above this resistance area, which was determined before pre-market, and on Wednesday. I'm actually making this video on Friday afternoon, so we said when we get above this resistance area, if we get a squeeze firing off, we're going to take it. So we were watching it, and then it was boom, like 4 bars went in no time. So then we were able to actually take a squeeze that fired off a little later on the 512 tick chart. So that's the beauty of having both of those charts up there. If one sets up and you can't get it because everything's not in line, then you hop over the 512 and realistically you'll have another opportunity. So we took that at 944.58. It was actually almost 945. Got in at 896.50, actually on this bar here, and had said that we'll take our +1, and then we'll definitely be looking for something around this 898 area as well. So took +1, +1 3/4, and then on the final final third, so a third, and then final third, once you break this floor midpoint up here and it came back under it, that's where it was stopped out. If you moved your stop to just under this, which was 901.75, you would have been stopped out. If you managed it differently and were just trailing based on pivot highs and pivot lows, you would have moved your stop under here, and then you would have rode it for even longer. So actually, on that final third here, you would have gotten 5 1/4. Here, obviously, you would have did much better. So it just depends on how you managed it. But I typically am exiting in thirds. Next trade that set up was at 10:10, and we had a long squeeze firing off here. So we got in right where you see this circle here at 10:10 at 904.50, expecting it possibly to go higher up to the next floor pivot. It didn't, and when you see it turning against you, you just flatten and cancel. So you can flatten and cancel when you see the bars turning red, or if you see the momentum on the squeeze indicator decreasing and turning dark green, or when you see the MACD turning against you. Totally up to you what you decide to do. And if you wanted to do that, if you sat through that, then you would have gotten, I think you would have gotten your +1 close to that, if not, but that's about all you would have gotten out of that. So I had a small loss on that, I think for 1 1/4. I also want to point out on that very first trade that I showed you, we also had a trend line break. We weren't interested in that because we were already in the trade, and I have to say that if I was not already in the trade, I don't think that I would have called this or been interested in it, just because of the amount of bars we had gone up already. So if I would have seen that, I would have thought, okay, we're going to get a pullback or go sideways. Let's wait for the next opportunity. So it wasn't anything we had to make a decision on because we were already in the trade, but I just wanted to point that out in case you were wondering. So the next trade that we took was at 10:33. We went short based on this trend line break here. We had this bar close below this trend line here. At 10:33, we got in at 902.50. I enter in half a point below that bar, got filled on the very next bar, and I have my initial stop half a point above the setup bar, and basically sat there forever to make a point. Once I made my point, I moved my stop to my entry and was stopped out. If you were managing it a little bit differently, then you would have gotten +2 before you were stopped out. But if you moved it to your entry, then you were stopped out as well. So basically sat there forever for a point. What are you going to do? You just don't know. You take it, and the setup was there, and still worked out, just not a huge winner. Also want to mention that I use a half a point above or below the bar. You can use a quarter, whatever you like. Some people use the closing price as their entry on the next bar. I prefer that half a point, even though some people feel like they're giving something away when they do that. It just really keeps you out of questionable trades, because oftentimes on the very next bar you won't get filled. And so I cancel my order if that happens, and then oftentimes it just shoots up in the opposite direction. So, I'm always happy when that next bar keeps me out of trouble. So the next trade was at 11:27, and we have been willing to trade through lunch just because of what has been happening through lunch over the last few months. So we have been willing to do that. I was not going to be here at all during lunch, not even at my desk, so I was not willing to take this trade, but called it anyway. It was at 11:07. Entry would have been half a point above this bar. Initial stop would be half a point below. So got in if you did it at 9:05.75, and if you were trailing under the low of each bar by half a point, you would not have been stopped out until this bar here, and you would have been stopped out at 9:11.50, and that would have been a gain of 7.5 points. Realistically, you would have exited probably a third at +1 or +2, and then a third probably at +4, and then let your last third ride. The only thing that we did caution before taking that trade is, if you look here on the 200 tick chart, right here we have the high from Wednesday right above the entry bar. So just caution that you would want to take some profits there, and definitely be prepared for it to turn against you, or at least go sideways for a while. Never expecting that it would slice right through there. So that was an awesome trade. I realistically don't expect that anybody sat through this red bar after going up for so long to get the remaining little bit of that move. I really would doubt it. But if they did, then great. I don't really know how they managed it if they did, but if they did, great. There was also an opportunity to jump on taking a squeeze as well. So if you missed that trendline break, you could have taken the squeeze as well. And the next trade that set up was at 2:05, and it was a trendline break to the downside. We felt comfortable taking it. We have price moving higher, indicator moving lower, which typically is going to signify price is going to follow our indicator. So this is the trendline break that I used. It started, basically when we opened, came through these bars here on up. So we have our 3 touches there, no problem. And I liked it because it was covering all day. So we got closed below the trend line on this bar here. We entered in at 913.25, which is half a point below this bar, and I got my +1 and moved my stop to my entry. And the reason I did that was we were not sure, how this support area was going to hold up. Basically was acting as support here and support here and here. So I was willing to just take my +1 and move it to my entry, and then break even on my remaining contracts. And so that's exactly what happened. I got stopped out at my entry. If you were able to sit through this, then I believe you would have gotten your +2. I'm not exactly sure, but I think you would have. And I drew this yellow trend line, and that could have worked as well. You'd be touching here, 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 and then here, and it still would not matter. It's still, the closing bar would still be the same as the one that we entered in on, because it closed under our trend line as well. So either way would have worked, and your entry would have been the same. So it doesn't really matter which way you chose. So that's it. Those are the trades for Thursday, and hope that helps. And if you'd like to check out the setups that we use, you can go to www.easyminitrade.com.